By the way, how's everything that side? You know,
It's a
how,
Saturday night, so it is what it is. But yeah, I think it's a Sunday morning for you guys out there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Talking about like just out of curiosity, by the time people are joining, how do you usually spend your weekend, right? So over here in India, the weekend has a completely different meaning to the people who are in the corporate who are working out, right? Monday to Friday, there's this jam-packed schedule, and then Saturday and Sundays, people are chilling out here and there.
Mhm.
So, after a point where you've already spent I mean, I've seen your history, so it's a long history, right? Where you've already gone through all of these phases of chilling out and stuff. So is it still there? Do you like to spend weekend outside, or is like घर पे बैठूंगा सोऊंगा and that's what I aim to do?
So it's a mix of both. So I like my peaceful weekends, and then I also like going out with friends. Not much of a party person now, as you grow
Okay.
older, but
Yeah.
judge me if you will. But but then yes, more of a home person now, and then going out with friends, eating out, and resetting basically for the next week because it's
Makes
weeks are
sense.
tough uh, when you're doing your job and you have to manage a lot at home and personal life as well.
So
So
was it
Saturday
from the start, or is it like you adapted over the period of time? Like, अब तो आदत पड़ गई है बाहर जाने का, अब घर नहीं अब I just want to stay home.
it changes. So I was in Bangalore earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and then life there is very bachelorish. You go out
Mm-hmm.
to the Nagar or places like
Yeah, yeah.
that,
Kormangla
uh,
and stuff.
Koramangala and stuff. But here also in Seattle, it's more of it depends on the type of people you're with. So most of it is any day you get a lot of help to do your personal stuff, but weekends here are mostly to do your personal stuff, get chores done because then other days you're at office. And then if you have time, you spend it with friends and chill
Yeah.
for the next week. Yeah, reset your mind for the next week. So yeah.
Got it. Got it. So, Will, do you dive? I mean, I'm really curious to understand. One part of how it functions over there. But I think
Mhm.
instead of asking randomly initiating the conversation, maybe trying to get my answers,
Mhm.
we would rather. The plan is we'll break the interaction into three phases. First phase is we'll start with the school, right, of
Mhm.
yours. The second phase is the college, and the third phase is your corporate, so when you started actually working and stuff. To start with, I would really first, would like to pass on the mic to Rishabh to probably give us a short introduction about himself before we actually move on to the discussion of the different phases of his life that we would be unwinding as in when we go forward. So,
Mhm.
yeah, Rishabh.
So hello everyone who's on the call. I did my undergrad from India in Bhubaneswar KIT University in electronics and communications, and then really wanted to work in the software field. It was a transition while I had in college, so tried to get into software field, and then was recruited in a services company called Accenture. So I spent 2 years there. Switched to another consulting firm, which is Sapient in Bangalore. So spent another 2 years there. Um, but then again, I thought that since I am developing my career into computer science, I should get a degree in computer science, a formal degree with which always helps with your basics and I always believe fundamentals are key. So if you have your strong fundamentals, you always will have a good building on top of it. So that's the main reason I had a experienced set life in India and then had to switch to a student again, moving to the United States. It was tough with the economy and all, but had to make that call. It's risky. Wouldn't recommend it for everybody. It's risky. You have a lot of loans, student loans, but that's another conversation. Uh, yeah, and did get admitted to Virginia Tech on a full scholarship. Did my master's there in computer science. Uh, and then got my internship at Tesla. Worked there as an SDE. Got a return offer from Tesla, so joined Tesla some months back again.
Awesome. Interesting. I think since in the introduction itself, I could like probably think of so many counter questions.
Hmm.
But I think we'll start with the formal and we'll come to those questions whenever we are having a discussion for that particular phase.
Hmm.
So the majority of the student, they are coming from a middle class family, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and middle class family is always concerned and worried about the grades and stuff, right? So we start with the school life, right? Do you too come from a family where not I'm not talking about the middle class thing, but what was the mindset of family while you were growing and you were in your school age, right? Was it always behind the grades? And if it was grades, how did you manage? So if you can a little bit talk about your school phase, and how did it look like, and stuff on that part.
So I'll be very honest with you. I wasn't a very good student in school. I was an average student, an 80 percenter in my 10th and 12th. In my college, I was an 8 pointer, not very good, not very bad. Just did the bare minimum. Anybody who's done an undergrad in India knows how it goes. So uh, that, and then, but there comes a certain point in your life where you decide to put in efforts for the things you want. So, masters for me was the point where I thought, okay, this is my career. This is where I'm gonna
Hmm.
go to, and then I'm gonna put in effort. So it's not easy, but then opportunities are there if you have the right guidance, and somebody helped me. Uh, uh,
Yeah,
a lot of people helped me in this journey. So when I got this chance that okay, you should help a lot of people, I was like, okay, why not? And coming to the question that you asked about the family, my family was always very always emphasized on studies, like everyone in India. But I have a very varied viewpoint. I know it might be a controversial viewpoint, but I do believe people who are 90 percentile or 95 percentage and the straight A students, they sometimes have personal viewpoint again, but they sometimes have a lack of risk taking capabilities
yeah,
because they always have this mindset, okay, we need to do certain things in life for us to achieve something, wherein people who are mediocre, they always take risks. Okay, I did not study for this, let's see what happens. Okay, I survived, cool, not a big deal. But then again, at certain point of life, you have to be serious to
got it.
achieve something. Yeah.
Can you break that portion a bit, right? I do understand, that the risk-taking appetite for the people who are in the mediocre is very high, right? Because they are trying to do multiple things and in phases. But then there's this part where, the emphasis of getting good grades is always there, right? But what do you think, according to you, could be the possible reason why the people on the elite side, while they're in school? I mean, this is the example that you gave is very relatable to me. That what my friend circle looks like today. Uh, so what is the reason? If you can like share a bit on part that the mediocres have a little diverse thought process versus the elite people. I mean, the risk-taking appetite. I mean, is it
So
घर की डांट के हिसाब से होता है या like क्या
नहीं
क्या
नहीं
चल रहा
ऐसा
होता है?
ऐसा नहीं है. So most of it is, I think, is so when you're a kid, right? So I truly believe when you're a kid up to class 12th of your career, I think you should do a lot of things. You should see where your interests are. And again, I'm not talking about you should not do engineering or you should not do an MBA because these are like safe pathways to careers, and people normally do become engineers or do MBAs or become lawyers and doctors. They're usual because these are the least resistant uh, and most high chances of success in these fields. So you should always do that. But then again, people till class 12th, I personally believe people don't have their own mindset as to what they want to do in life, and it's more of like following the herd, the sheep. So if my friend's doing this, or most of the people are like, I don't understand coding, so I will not learn it. Or there's a resistance in your heart that okay, if I find something difficult, I won't pursue it. If I find cooking, for example, very I'm very passionate about cooking, so I'll be like, let's become a chef because that's my interest. That's where my interest is. But then again, having an interest in something and working towards something are very different things. So you can have an interest in cooking, but if you don't work towards becoming a chef, it doesn't mean anything. So all in all, what I believe is that, how to put it in good words is, till class 12th, or until you are in your undergrad, you should try out a lot of different stuff. And I think mediocres, people who are in the 70s, 80s percent age range, should have tried out a lot of things. They study, but they also try out a
Mhm.
lot of different things. They roam, they meet
Got it.
people, they have a lot of good people skills, and people skills are also very important. So we
Mhm.
normally don't emphasize much on the softer side uh,
Mhm.
of our development when we grow up. So till class 12th, I do believe you don't have to worry much about your grades. But unfortunately, our system is built like, okay, you need to be a 90 percentile or something to get into certain colleges. And I do even believe that getting into good colleges also guarantees success. It does, however, give you a good
Mhm.
peer group. So a good peer group is all you can ask for, because if you have five people who are doing actively, who are using lead code, or who are in a field and trying to understand a particular field, you will always have good advice from them. You can discuss things with them. So the good colleges give you a good peer group, give you good competition. But apart from that, I don't think there is anything different from other colleges in that. So if you can find a good peer group in a tier 3 college or tier 2 college, you're all set.
Got it. I think interesting. So, since you mentioned about, that someone who's coming from, I mean, specifically in the school age, you should be, doing a lot of things.
Mhm,
How much of those lot of things, or let's say I break it and make it a keyword of extracurricular activities, right? So, I still remember back in my school days, my dad thought ki my grades are going down just because I'm too much into extracurricular activities. Like,
mhm,
so he probably reached out to to the teachers in the campus and said, "Ki the next time he's participating in any of the extracurricular activity, right? This is my number. Give me a call. मैं इसको सीधा करता हूँ,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
कि पढ़ाई
Yeah,
पे ध्यान दे."
same. So.
But I have a very different point of view on extracurricular. But how much of those extracurricular activities that you would have participated during your school days is
Mhm.
helping you today, or is it helping or not? If it is, how much of it do you think? Uh, you know.
So there's no black and white answer to this. So I cannot say it is helping me or it's not helping me, but every day it helps me make new relationships. It helps me make
Mm,
new friends. It helps me make good relationships at work, right? So all of these things add up somewhere. So if you are a dull person who has just been, and I don't mean this in a negative way, people who study for their school and college and boards have massive respect from my side, and you should, because that's what your expectations are as a person. But my viewpoint is that you should never uh, like go too much into into
mhm.
that. Extracurriculars, I will not put extracurriculars as a term as you put it. Extracurriculars for me might be in school and outside school as well. Outside school
Okay.
meaning playing uh, with your friends on the streets. You know how to navigate uh, people, like you'll meet, because when people are young they have very close circles, and when
Yeah.
then, and this is general advice, this is not studying advice at all. But then when you move out into your undergrad life and then move out to your master's life, you meet a lot of people, and people from your school are very friendly. So the friends you meet at school are very pure hearted. They have they have only good things to say about you, or think good things about you, most of them. But then when you move to college, you find people who are not as friendly, or might not be as engaging as your school friends. And then when you keep becoming older, you kind of meet a lot of people who try to pull you down maybe, or are not as supportive as you would want them to be. So navigating those situations also help, because you asked about extracurriculars, but people who like play football on the street, for example,
Mhm,
or
mhm,
they or they bunk classes, for example. So they are navigating, not promoting that, but they're navigating not getting scolded by their parents, for example. So they're taking risks in that. uh, what is very important in my opinion is, if you have a tendency to take risks, those grow over age. And there is a reason why uh, lots of startups, you would see a lot of startups being founded by ITs and IMs. But what you don't know is 80% of the startups are non-IT, non-IMs. The reason being is people who have taken risks. People with a 1 crore package won't take a risk. Most of them won't. Uh, but
100%.
a person who has lived their entire life taking risks, okay, I'll not study for my computer science exam. Let's postpone it to 3 days before the exam. Again, not encouraging that at all, personal viewpoint. But people who study 3 days before the exam, they are managing risk in that. Okay, 3 days of studying, I'll get this number. I'm happy with that. And they're navigating troubled waters through that. They know that if they get less numbers, their parents will not be very happy, but they still take the risk. Okay, I'll move. Maybe it's laziness. Maybe it's the thought in their head that, okay, I can take this risk. I've survived till now. I will survive again. And this is the inherent ability which comes under you. And what I've seen in my peers as well, that people start expecting things. So if you're from a good college, you start expecting, okay, I should have a good job. And when things don't go according to you, when you take that person out of their cocoon and put them in the real world, they'll be like, I applied to 100 jobs, did not get a single call back. They don't know what to do. A person who has been taking risks all their life, they're like, okay, 100 jobs did not work out, maybe 200 more jobs I'll apply to. So that's the mindset change that happens on a very basic level at school.
Awesome. I think the key word that you mentioned, expectation, is the highlight of the conversation and very well put in the story form.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I'm expecting through the entire life the student's always running behind expectation until there's a setback and fall back where he
Yeah,
realizes, yeah, it is time for me to do
yeah,
things rather than expect someone else to take my responsibility of ensuring that I have a better life, right?
sure.
Initially it is we look up to the family, and then college we start looking up to college later, and then we start looking up to organizations later, right? So I think that expectation definition should be understood and should be redefined to how you actually look at it.
Mhm.
Awesome. Another very interesting question is, how did you like school time? I remember for a very long period of time I wasn't sure what are the possible subjects, or what are the possible higher education available, right after the 12th, right? Until I got into the preps of JEE and stuff, right, which happened in 11th, ki chalo abhi JEE ki preparation karna hai, and that is how things started getting little bit of unwinding, ki okay, engineering exists, right? Other than engineering, there was nothing much that I knew, right? So how did engineering happen? Were you aware of all those things prior to, or in a very early stage of your school days, or is it all accident, and you thought, okay, I'll go for engineering, and that's how I have these plans and I'll execute through engineering.
To be very honest, I did not have any plans till class 11th at all. Like, no,
Okay,
I did not like computer science at all. Because I had to think a lot through the programs, and the basics were very. So I thought I cannot do coding. It's not for me. But the reason I said that was a lack of effort into coding. It was not a lack of interest per se. So there are two very different things people need to understand. You might have a lot of interest in something, but if you don't put an so interests change. So at age 22, you might have interest in something. At age 24, you might have interest in something else. You cannot change
correct.
careers like that, though. But then you need to have an honest talk with yourself that, okay, this career looks nice. This career seems challenging, is interesting enough for me to stay 40 years or 30 years of my life in. And be honest to yourself. give it an honest chance, give it an honest time, and see in 6 months if you are able to progress. Because if many other people can, you can. It's just a question of effort. So yeah. And what was your original question? I'm sorry, I forgot.
So eventually, the question was, how did you figure out that you want to do
Yeah, yeah,
engineering?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
So I wanted to do law per se. So everything I'm saying is coming out of experience and my personal
yeah,
experience. So it might not apply to everyone. But I wanted to do law. I got admitted in NLU Delhi because I was into debates and I was into a lot of other things, and I really studied for it and gave. But then my family was not from a lawyer background as such, and I got advice that if you don't have a background or people
mhm,
backing you in to become a lawyer, it's very difficult to make a career out of it as a first generation lawyer. Then
yeah,
by the end of your career, you can be a good lawyer, and then your children and your relatives can be. But as a first generation lawyer, you'll have to work a lot. Uh, okay, so I did not know whether I have to do law or not. I wanted to become a chef as well, so because I like cooking. But then that was mainly because I was less interested to work towards a proper, when I say proper, these are also proper fields. But then again, I saw where the opportunity lies, where the next 20 years, what the next 20 year of the world will look like. And again, I did not think of this. I had good friends around. I had good family around. My brother was also an engineer. He did his graduation from IIM later on. So I had good advice. So it's always like the one number one point I have is, if you don't know about something, don't be hesitant to ask people. There will be people who will be very moody and will be like, no, I'll not help you. But there'll be only like 1% of the people. 99% of the people you'll ask for help, they'll help you from their experience. So if you start anything, go to a person who has been through that process, ask questions, and don't be afraid of asking questions. People will help you. So
got it.
so that's how I got to know about, like, everybody was doing engineering. I was like, sure, why not? And then got into engineering. Electronics and communication was the top branch back in the day. I don't know what how it is today. So I was like, let's take the top branch. Sure, why not? Uh, I was offered computer science, but I was like, no, let's take the top branch. Why not? I was interested in electronics, so I thought, because who doesn't like circuits and who doesn't like building robots and whatnot? But it's much more than that. It's very tough. People who might be doing their undergrads and might be studying electronic subjects, they know what I'm talking about. So it's a tough course to beat. And it not just tough. For me, why I switched to computer science is also because there are less career opportunities in electronics. I don't know about today's world, but back 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was a very tough call to make, whether I need to continue my expertise in electronics, or do I need to see myself as a person who can make a future in software, because I saw people making 40 lakhs an annum that time, and 40 lakhs an annum that time was huge. Today it's there, you can get it easy, but that time it was like premier colleges and premier people used to get those, and I'm like, if they can get it, I can, so why not study for it? So it was tough. Then you have to switch
Got
from electronics and you have no coding background, and then you have to do your lead codes and that. But again, not a did not crack a product company. Again, went to a services company, Accenture. But then that also did help me a lot, because that helped me transition from a non-CS person to a CS person. Gave me a lot of training in computer science. And training can come from anywhere. It can come from your college, it can come from your friends, it can come from cipher schools. It can come from
yeah,
anywhere. So should be just ready
awesome,
to take the help.
awesome. Mentioned about this keyword called interest, right? Initially, and then another thing that you highlighted about is having a right set of people around, wherein whenever you are stuck with something or whenever you need a help on something, you're reaching out to the right person. Someone who has done it would be the better person to give an answer or to suggest you or to recommend you on that part, right? So I think the best thing while you're working or while you're studying at the campus is you have a wide range of network people around you, right? Be it your professors, be it your seniors, be it your batchmates, right? So reaching out to the right people would always help and will help you in optimizing your path. And the first thing is interest, right?
Hmm.
So I'll just make it little simple for everyone so that they have a clarity on that. Like as you mentioned, interest over the period of time would change, but then there are certain efforts that are required before you decide on to whether or not you like it, right? So let's say there is subject A and subject B, or let's say we take the simple example of a programming language, let's say Python versus Java, right? Sometime we start learning Python, we understand it in 6 days or a week or so, and then when we start learning Java, we are probably not putting enough effort and expecting that ये भी एक हफ्ते में समझ में आना चाहिए. But some way or the other, we need to understand both the languages are different and they require a different amount of effort. So keep putting that effort, and the moment you cross that threshold would be the moment you would start understanding it, right?
Yeah.
So do not quit if in case you are in the process of exploring something until you have put enough effort or you've reached to that threshold where you can make a decision, right? कि चलो ठीक है, Python का decision 1 week में, Java का decision is 1 month का decision. A simple example I took in a programming language because I couldn't come up, I wasn't able to think a better example on that part.
Yeah, the
But
Paulo Coelho from The Alchemist also says this. The treasure is right before the
awesome,
last step you stop looking for it.
correct,
It's on the last step
100%.
you stop looking for it. So
100%. So interest, effort, and surround yourself with the right people, and all of these things would probably make life better for all of us moving forward.
and I
Cool.
like to
I
add on
think,
that. I like to
yeah,
add
yeah,
on that.
please.
So it's a struggle. Grinding out every day is a struggle. Nobody likes to do it. Like ask
Yeah,
anybody who likes to do lead code on a weekend or getting up in the morning. But this so again, I made two different statements. I made you should do a lot of extracurriculars, and then I'm
mm,
contradicting it by saying you should put hard work in your field. So I'm not trying to confuse you all. But what I'm trying to do in your formative years, you should try out a lot of stuff. You should understand how life is on this earth, how people are on this earth. You should interact with a lot of different sets of people, blow out of your cocoon. Otherwise, you're very like boxed in a well kind of
correct,
a person.
correct,
And then people normally when they go to undergrads and when they get their freedom from their homes, they start exploring. They start exploring the personalities, uh, friends, and so on. But then again, that's very important. And
correct.
again,
And yeah, makes sense.
the other point I did make is never be afraid of hard work. There's no substitute for hard work. So at some point of life, when you decide, okay, this is where I am, this is where my future is, at that moment of time, you don't need to do hard work at every single, because people keep scamming you, right?
Yeah,
Do good in your 10th, life will be good. Do good in your 12th, life will be good. Do good in your undergrads, life will be good. And then you're looking for jobs, and then you're applying for jobs, life will be good. Then you're in your job, and then you're always working towards it. And when is life good? Life is never good. So it's always a struggle, but you need to pick your struggles.
yeah,
You need to either pick this struggle or that struggle. So always, there's no substitute for hard work, I believe. But
100%.
then you need to be very sure. So that formative years, you need to make sure that you understand what you are into. The brain should be open. You should not be close-minded. And but when the time comes, the important decisions need to be well thought of, and you need to do a lot of hard work, because nobody likes waking up in the morning and doing lead code, because I hope everybody is a CS student here. So nobody likes it. You see a number one ranked person on Code Chef. He doesn't like to do it, but he does it every day. And since he does it every day, it becomes easier for him. Just like any sport. The first day you play, very bad at it or
Yeah,
average at it. But over time, things become easier. Since things become easier, you think you start enjoying it, because you've
correct,
putting the same effort, but things are easier now. So
correct. Um, uh, just to add on to that, Rishabh, so I often keep on interacting with my friends who are working in product-based companies, and despite of the settlement and the settled life that they have, they still spend time doing lead code or doing
Yep.
all these problem solving stuff.
Yep.
It's just that, so the lesson is, the problem solving ability that you're trying to build or you're trying to work upon is something that will always is meant to stay with you in the long run, right?
Yep.
It's not that once you're settled, you probably now can chill and relax and you don't have to, worry about, because there's always, you would keep on moving in your life from one stage to another stage to another stage. And the subject which has a fundamental contribution towards all of those things is a problem statement, which is where the uh, concepts of system design or data structure and stuff comes into the picture. Uh, so we'll take a shift from, I mean, we started the conversation through a school phase where, how the transition into the college and stuff happened. So probably from there, we would be taking a shift to the college life.
Mhm.
So if you can summarize how was your life at KIT,
Mhm.
and, if you given a chance to summarize how was your first year, second year, third year, and fourth year, how it looked like. So if you can quickly walk us through those phase and those days, would really love to know about that.
I'm an
Too
old
much,
man now.
too much to share.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm an old man now. But the first years were mostly fun. So avoiding seniors, navigating college life, understanding how college life is, making good friends. So first years always the best friends I have is from KIT. Would never give that up. That those 4 years. Uh, so first year is for making friends. Second year, third year is when you become well versed with the college, and then you try to navigate through stuff. So I think first year you need to study a lot of subjects in every field, and that is also what I think colleges try to teach you. Like, okay, explore every field, think again. You have a last chance to shift. If you're a mechanical engineer, you want to become an electrical engineer, now is your chance. So you get to study all of these subjects. I think it's the same now also. And that's your last chance to change, because then you get a degree in your subject. And then second, third, fourth years is mostly making friends and relationships. And um, college is not, in my opinion, in India, is not where you study much. It's always self study. uh, and the course curriculum is also very, is not primed for success in the real world. It's just there to have your understandings and your basics, right, and have a person in the form of a professor to just carry out doubts. But if you look at what we got, like what we are taught in colleges, it's nowhere close to what we are doing in the real world. So I think there needs to be a curriculum change. I don't know how effective will that be. But then again, I do believe that if the curriculum starts emulating what real world engineers face, or um, there's a fundamentals class, of course, and then um, give real life coding solutions or problems to engineers, it will be very nice. So 4 years of college, lots of friendships, less of studies, uh, average student again, 8 pointer out of 10. Um, but then it was a lot of self reflection as to, do I want to do this for the rest of my life or no? So yeah, so that is when in the third year I realized I did not want to become an semiconductors engineer, for example, and I want to become a computer science engineer. That's when I started studying on the third year and fourth
Got
year.
it. Yeah, I think that's a very so something that I want to share with all the students who are hearing you is a lot of time people think that you need to be very different to do all of these things, right? But if you talk to people who have already done it, you'll realize they've gone through the same phases, same thoughts that you would have, self-doubt and stuff happening very frequent here and there. And then there's a phase where you actually realize. So anyone who's listening to this, and if they're going through the same phases and have the same thought process, would relate and should understand that, no one has that superpower of being perfect from the day one itself. People are
Yeah.
learning through their mistakes. People are learning through their realizations, and that's how things are. And that's how things are moving forward, right? And I think that's still the common pattern, Rishabh. I would add on to that is when the student reaches out to the third year is where he realizes that now he's already enjoyed 50% of his college life. It's already gone. And I think now it's the time to work and focus on the career point. There is where the person starts running
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
start looking for uh, you know so many things out there on the internet and starts educating stuff. So it's a very common way of and very recommended way, fall and learn and then probably keep doing it until you probably figure out what exactly you want to do.
So if you would remember, I made a point that I always have a group of friends who are ready to
Yeah.
support you. I did have a very good group of friends, but none of them computer science. So everything is coming out of experience. So I did not get to know what do I need to study. I did not know about lead code at all. In my time, there were Geeks for Geeks or Code Chef or these platforms, and I got to know them through my own research on the internet. But I
Mhm.
did not have any friends in CS per se. Like I had friends, but I was not interacting with them on study basis. So always have people who have been through that or are going through that grind around you. Because if a person understands X, he can teach you X, and then
Correct.
you save that effort. If you understand Y, you teach them Y. Both of them benefit. Always try to help in that.
Awesome.
Uh, keep your pure, keep your heart pure. Try to help and expect help in return.
Got it.
Because if you think like, okay, I'll learn this from him and I'll not teach it to that person and I'll move ahead in life, that does not work like that. Maybe in the first 1 month or so. So keep an open communication, keep an open channel between your friends, and try to help them genuinely. Um,
in fact
so
in
that
fact teaching. Yeah, please, sorry.
and they will help you genuinely if they see that the help was genuine. So
In fact, I mean, it's so underrated skill. You clearly mentioned about helping and teaching, right? In fact, the process of teaching and helping also prepares you well,
yeah,
right? So a lot of time people are like, कि नहीं नहीं वो आगे निकल जाएगा मैं पीछे रह जाऊंगा, all of those things. But that's not the practical, scenarios when things are moving forward. I mean, you would be much better if you have been helping and teaching, your friends and people around you.
yeah.
Yeah. So coming to the third year is where you realized, that you need to start working on things. Can you share an overview of your preparation, how it looked like? What was the strategy? What is the tech stack? Maybe if you can walk us through, how did you figure out, let's say if you figured out, I want to do data structure algorithm, how did you figure out? And what was your preparation strategy at that point of time?
So understand a person with a blank slate, have nothing in computer science at all, like third year,
Yeah.
like zero, and did not like coding at all. I was like, no, cannot understand recursion, cannot understand these things, and cannot understand, so cannot do. So very tribal mentality. Okay, I do not understand this, I will not do this. It's irritating. And hence I made, again, going back to the point, if you don't understand anything, give it an honest try for 6 months. 6 months is nothing in front of your life. Like, give it an honest try, 6 months. If you still don't understand it, if you still don't, but an honest one. Don't be like, okay, I just opened my computer, did lead code, but did not do lead code. Like, struggle with it and see if it becomes easier. If it becomes easier, you'll start gaining interest, and then be like, oh, I'm interested in this. Now interests change. So earlier you were like, I was like, computer science, no, thank you. But now then, I've since I started doing all of these things, I started talking to, made some friends in my computer science department who are preparing for companies like Microsoft or Amazon, and they were preparing for that from first year itself, because computer science students have this whole ecosystem where they know, or through their seniors or through their friends, that okay, this is what you need to do, there's a template, do this. And there's a template. Basically, you do your lead codes, do you read your groking the coding interview, design interview, and 3 4 books, and if you finish that syllabus off, one of the companies will take you, right?
Yeah, you're all set. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a common template to that. So I had to that template out myself. But now I think there's a lot of help available. That template is set. You just need to put in the effort. You just need to do 400, or don't do 400, do 200 medium lead codes, do 15 hards, and then do another 100 easy. So more mediums, less hards, and average amount of easy questions. 400 questions, you should be good for any company, and on a entry level basis. I don't think there will be any company except the companies with higher egos that ask a lot of difficult questions. Most of the companies don't even ask dynamic programming, which is a very tough topic to
Mhm.
conquer. I myself, if I take an interview, I never go towards recursion, because we never use recursion. Recursion is a very bad, going into specifics, but recursion is a very memory intensive way to do stuff. Instead, use a for loop. Why people don't use a for loop, I do not understand. If a candidate comes in front of me and uses recursion, I reject him for simple reasons.
Mhm.
It's not good in
Yeah.
memory complexity. It uses a lot of stack memory, right? So, but if you want to show your expertise in recursion and you want to show that, okay, this looks fancy, then that's another story, right? So yes, um, um, always follow a fixed template. Ask your seniors whether this template, validate that template. uh, Put in that hard work to do that 400 lead codes. Apply to companies, get calls. Again, now, when I was student, and this problem will be with many other students, and I come from electronics and communication, so my resume did not have any computer science stuff on it. So you would give an interview only when you get called for an interview. You would not get called for an interview, at least. So the biggest problem I felt, still feel, back in the day, was I used to apply to companies, but nobody was ready to give me a chance because they would not know anything about me. So then I realized in the future, but then I got into Accenture for that time amount of time. But then I realized that you need to do a lot of projects. If your resume does not show that you are a computer science student, you need to do a lot of good projects, and not any project. You need to find out a good problem and make a project out of that. Do not do puzzle solving project which is there on the internet, just GitHub copy and run it. People know that you faked, but pick out a real problem, solve it. When you go to an interview, talk to your interviewer as to why this problem is very close to your heart. And then why did you do this project? And that will let the interviewer know, okay, this person felt something, did some project, figured it out on his own. Basically, you created a startup without the funding and without the code for the startup, right? And then
Right.
so that's a very good motivation to see on a resume. If
Right.
we see fresher resumes, we don't see how much tech you know, because we don't have any expectation that you will have a lot of tech in your. I wouldn't expect a person in their first years or second years of college or third years of college to know about Kafka, or don't know about RabbitMQ, or uh, fancy technologies, right? They have these are We wouldn't know at that time. We only
Correct.
got to know because we started working with them, right?
Makes sense.
You would only expect them to have like language proficiencies like Java, C++, C Sharp, depending on what your role you're applying to. You're applying to front end, back end, or full stack. Depending on that, you would want to have, okay, if I am hiring for back end, I do not want front end stack on the resume. I will reject it right away because that's
Mhm.
not the person I'm looking for. But if I have back end technology written on it, and then I skip the extracurricular part, again, contradicting myself, but I told you what I meant. Um, I don't. I'm not at all interested in whether you did you got a gold medal in your college for organizing a fest. And people my age, at least when I was a student, put a lot of emphasis on that. They used to join a lot of societies. They thought, okay, this will. And I think people need to talk about this because students always think, okay, if I put this in my resume, it's gonna shine brighter than the other resumes. Does not happen. Nobody looks at the extracurriculars because that's a cause and topic very dear to your heart. but not very dear to my heart. If you went and did environmental service for, let's say, national service scheme, 200 hours, uh, might be relevant to you. I appreciate that you did it, but not relevant to the job, right? So no extracurriculars. I would not waste space, precious space on the resume on extracurriculars. Instead, what I'll do is put real interesting projects that I did not copy and built, because then I will ask questions to you as to how did you design it, and why did you use this approach versus that approach. And that conversation, I will not even ask that person to do a lead code in an interview, the first interview. I would just discuss on that particular project and see the mindset of that person, how he or she or they developed uh, the product. So that's the first screening round, is what many companies do.
Yeah.
So if you have a good 3 4 projects with a good clear, and you need to communicate it in your resume. You've done a very good project, but you've like made open AI based chat search
Mhm.
engine, something like that. um, okay, sounds fancy, but what did you do in that? Like, put it. And that's a skill. Putting whole story in 2 lines, 3 lines, because space is precious. 3 4 lines is key. And people normally,
True.
when you're taking freshers, you look at those projects, because you know there is no other experience that I can look at. I can just look at interest. Can look, if somebody's put Kubernetes, for example, in
Mhm.
their resume, I know they just know the skim level of Kubernetes. They
Got it.
they might have just read just before the interview,
Mhm.
and they'll come. So if you go deep down, they'll fail. So the expectation has to be set. And I believe
Got it.
people in this rat race sometimes believe that, okay, if I put 10 things in the resume, my resume will be like, wow. No, does not happen. Be original with your resume. We can tell
Got it.
if it's real or not.
So I think the key takeaways are you mentioned that spend good 6 month of time with whatever subject you choose to, right? And regardless of what background you're coming from, right? I think emphasis on the projects and related to what you're applying for, or what you really want to pursue, is very important, right? And not just dump all the information on the resume, but also make sure that if there's a cross question or the discussion happening around it, you're well versed with all those things that you have developed or you have added in your resume, right? Uh, Another question that I have is, a lot of time people during the third year of their college struggles between choosing this. So there's this one set of people who are working behind data structures algorithm, the problem solving stuff, right? Then there's another set of students who are working on the very niche, let's say MERN stack, front end, back end thing, right? What would your recommendation be? Someone who's willing to start, should we follow the path of data structure algorithm first and then switch to development, or how is it? Like, if you can share some pointers on that.
No real answer for that, to be very honest. Depends on how your background is and how your life takes you around.
Hmm.
Uh, there is no, so, okay, reframing that. So there is no computer science without database and algorithms. You
Correct.
need to have that knowledge. That's the bare minimum truth. You need to know your time complexities, memory complexities, the basics. Why is an array lookup faster than a list, maybe contiguous heap space memory? So your basics should be there, and that is when you can learn. On the base of these things, you can learn how to choose. So basically, I term these things as tools.
Hmm.
So these are basically aujars around.
Correct.
Ki
Correct.
if you are in a situation, what tool you do not go to a fist fight with a cooker, or you can maybe, but that's not a tool to use in that situation. So have those tools around, and in a situation you need to find out, okay, which tool, which data structure, which algorithm should I put in this situation. And that's the base necessity for a software engineer, in my opinion. um, then comes the stack, right? Every software engineer, be it front end, back end, full stack, SRE, AI, any software engineer, any one of these fields, you need to have this base knowledge. Otherwise, you're not a software engineer. Then you need to understand what you want to do with that base knowledge. So this is bare minimum. And then you would want to do, okay, I'm more interested in front end. I do not like to. So front end is nothing but languages and server side coding and then client side coding, for example. And backend is again your different Spring Boot or C Sharp, MVC, or depends on the language. So you choose a language then. So very simple template. You first do your basics, uh, not coding. You understand the basics in any language. Then you choose a language which you think is right. People normally choose Python because easier to grasp. I chose Java because had some background with Java, but doesn't matter. Nobody's gonna judge you on your. Depends on, of course, if you're using a backend language, use a backend language. If you're using a front end JavaScript or anything like that, use a front end language. So choose a language and then build your technologies around that language. So you need to see, okay, if I've learned JavaScript, should I learn Node.js? If I've learned C Sharp, should I use Entity, LinkU, all of these technologies versus if I'm using Java Stack, should I use Spring Boot with Redis or Docker and all of these technologies. So it depends on the language, the ecosystem you've chosen, and then the associated technologies. So it's a step-by-step process. So choose the language, choose an ecosystem. So because if you've chosen C Sharp, for example, which nobody chooses as a student, it's forced upon you by Microsoft or other companies, or Java, which is an open source language. But choose that language and then choose a tech stack around it. So if you've chosen, for example, C Sharp, you would have to know about entity framework. You would want to have about LinkU languages, which is basically a database interface between the coding language and the database. You would want to know about Azure. Not AWS, because C Sharp mostly uses Azure. So it would be very foolish if you are learning C Sharp and then learning AWS, because most of the companies will work with C Sharp and Azure, versus if you're using Java, Java can work with both Azure and AWS. But if your team's using C Sharp, most probably 95% of the times they are using Azure. So as a cloud provider, because Microsoft based technologies. So
Yeah.
yeah, so follow these steps. Find out your interest. Do the basics first. Don't code. Do the basics first. Like understand what it means. You should know what a pointer is. You should know what a memory address is. You should know what does a linked list blob in space is. What does a linked
Mm.
list mean, basically? What does a list look like? Imagine it. Visualize it in your head. Visualize. If I ask you a question, visualize how would you remove a linked list, a node from a linked list. So you should first visualize the whole thing. Don't code. You should know key, remove this link, remove it, hold the address, add it again. So you should have the ability to visualize it. So it works like this in Hindi and English, right? If you know anything in Hindi, you first visualize it in Hindi and then you
Yeah,
speak it in English. So have the ability to imagine algorithms. Coding will come. Code, if you know how to do it, coding is just syntax, right? So coding will come. And then choose a language and then choose an ecosystem and then choose your interest as to if you want to become a front stack, then choose your language according to front stack if you want to become a full stack or backend.
very interesting. I think, I mean, this was really very interesting, Rishabh, being very honest. I
Mhm.
think if I try to recall the days when I was coding, right, the retention of the concept was the key word for everything, right? So if I had learned in a certain way, let's say being able to visualize, the retention was very strong, right?
Yeah.
And once you are able to retain the concept, converting into a code is like the way easiest part. Once you have the idea of the basics, syntaxes of the programming language, whatever you have chosen, right? So I
Mhm.
think very well put. Just to make it summarize it for the people who are listening, is invest good amount of time in understanding the concept before you actually start writing the code, right? Once you've understood the concept theoretically, through the visualization, through the real world examples, is the time when you should switch to or start doing the coding part. And then using the same technology which you would have chosen for uh, solving the problem. Let's say if you've chosen Java to make a practical use of the concepts that you've understood, probably you can proceed towards the Java ecosystem. of trying to understand the front end of it, the back end of it. So basically, problem solving through concept, then the practical implementation, then the choosing of the right tech stack, which would give you a single ecosystem, right? Not trying to do, chalo, I'll do backend from this particular framework, front end from that particular framework. My programming language comes from a completely different language. So instead of doing multiple things, just choose one and stick to that particular technology and keep moving forward, right?
Yeah, a good point made. I forgot to make this point though. But a good point made. Do not mix stuff. Do not be an ML engineer and a backend engineer and a front end engineer and a full stack. First,
Yeah.
try to be a good backend engineer, because if a person's hiring you for certain things, they don't want to see how good are you in all the fields. If I'm hiring you for a position, I will want to know if you're a good backend engineer, because I'm a backend engineer, but my team has front end engineers. So if they are hiring, they are looking for good front end engineers. If
Mm.
there is a posting for full stack, go for it, but very less postings for full stack. So always have a focus on your resumes as to, okay, I am going to apply for these jobs because most of the jobs want professionals and experts rather than jack of all trades. Jack of all
Mm.
trades companies are mostly startups. If you're interested in startups, go ahead. Yes,
Go ahead.
there are good, yeah, there are good opportunities in startups. But if you want to target like established companies, most of them have uh, a clear cut recruiting process, and front end resumes won't reach back end resumes. But
Correct.
yes, if you are interested in startups, yes. And it's a good opportunity to work in startups as well in the starting of your career.
One of the mistake that people do is they create one generic resume and they keep on dumping to all the opportunities that they have,
Yeah.
right? I think is
Should
what
not.
Rishabh is trying to emphasize on. Keep create personalized resume based on the things that you
Yeah.
are applying for.
Yeah.
We have a random question on screen. Since it fits
Mhm.
with the current discussion, I would like to ask you. The student says, I'm presently studying front-end development, yet I frequently ponder the future viability of this technology. What is
Mhm.
your perspective on the upcoming technology poised to dominate the next 10 years? So he's like kind of like self-doubting himself, like whether or not front-end would stay relevant in the long run. Uh,
Front end will
so
always be relevant in the long run. What technology will be used in front end? I don't know. I'm not a front end guy, so may sound very illiterate in this answer. But then used to study Angular, right? So Angular 1 is very different from Angular 6, and I don't know what version came on ahead. But then if you know Angular 1, you would know how to work with components. I'm not a front end guy, so apologies. But then again, you would know how to work with the Angular components. So nothing ever goes to waste. And if you think, okay, 10 years later, this is going to happen and I'm going to study for it now, nobody knows what. I'm not God, or nobody is God. Even Bill Gates wouldn't know what 10 years is going to look like.
correct.
So all I can say is follow that template if you've been listening.
Yeah.
So choose a language, create a portfolio of that language, put it on a resume, and no technology will ever fade. So the company you'll go into will take you into that company based on the work you are putting in right now, learning front end.
Mhm,
And then
mhm.
the work you might be doing in that company will be very different from what you've learned. So you'll have to relearn a lot of things. When you're in college, let's say you are using JavaScript, for example. Let's take very basic. But and you've been learning about the tech stack, associated tech stack that comes with basic HTML, CSS, HTML5, JavaScript. But you go to a company, but you've made a project, and it's a good
Mhm.
question. And when I was student, I had this question as well. What should I study so that I don't have to study again 10 years later? So there's no real answer for that. Again, you'll have to work hard for your own life. There is no end. There is no terminal situation to hard work. You have to keep uh, working hard. You have to keep working hard to get into companies. When you get into companies, you have to keep working hard to get promotions, and life goes on. So there is, if you think that there is a stop anywhere. Okay, I'll learn this and I'll be chilling the rest of the life. No, it's like you'll have to constantly upgrade yourself, but the things you are working on will never go to waste. So the things you will learn, you will put a project of that on your resume. People will read about that. Front-end engineers, when you'll be an experienced front-end engineer, like 3 4 years 5 years down the line, you can look at resumes and you can tell, okay, this technology I may not know, but I know. And the complexity of the project that you did shows the amount of maturity you have in your thinking capability as a front-end engineer, for example. So always have that mindset. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm doing for myself. So do that project and then have that trust on the resume person who's reading your resume to understand what you're trying to tell them. And then as your job progresses on, you'll never work on the things you worked on in your college. You'll have to relearn. I relearn a lot of things every day. I have to learn new technologies every day, and it should be second nature as you move on. It should not be resist. You should not be resistant to stuff like, okay, uh, they are asking me to learn a new technology. It's too much work. So
I guess that brings us to the same bring takes us back to the same point which you initially emphasized on. Have a good fundamentals, problem
yeah,
solving ability and stuff. Because
and
every now
you can
and then
adapt.
the technologies would change. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. For some company, they would be working on X technologies, the other company would be working on Y technology. So if you have good fundamentals of problem solving, I think the adaptation to different
yeah,
technologies while you're moving from XYZ would not be a big of a challenge when you move forward. Do you ever get imposter syndrome?
yeah.
Uh, and how do you deal with it?
It's a very common thing in the industry. Ask any engineer. Ask a very senior engineer. I've asked my lead of 10 years in the industry. He says I do have it every single day, uh, because you can never conquer this field. Every day there is a new technology, and people start expectation have expectations from you. Okay, if this is a problem, this person will solve it. You need to understand,
Correct.
okay, we are human, we need to learn, and then we'll solve it because the fundamentals are strong. We'll eventually solve it. And imposter syndrome does kick in if okay, normally my timeline is 7 days, I'll be able to get a ticket done, for example, or 3 days, I'll be able to do it done. This particular thing is new. I've taken a month, I've taken 2 months. Then you start doubting yourself. But experienced managers and experienced people know about the complexity of things, and they know you start doubting yourself. But people who are looking at you from a higher level, they know that this is tough and you do not need to have that. But yes, that's a very valid point. People do have imposter syndrome. Um, and it is mostly because you compare yourself with others. You need to
Mm.
understand your life has been very different from people. You again, going back to the points I made, there is no substitute to hard work. You be
Correct.
true to the life and motive you have. uh, be true to the commitment you made with your field, and don't compare yourself with others. You might not be at their level right now, but with consistent practice you'll be there. And I cannot emphasize this again and again. Consistent practice every day will make you win this situation and will bring you out of this imposter syndrome. And it is the best feeling ever, because once you for example lead code, first day इजी नहीं बन रहा है मेरे से. क्यों नहीं बन रहा है इजी? इजी तो बनना चाहिए, लोगों का तो इजी बनता है. लोगों का तो हार्ड बन रहा है, मेरा इजी नहीं बन रहा है. 6 महीने दो अच्छे से. हार्ड वाला 6 महीने नहीं, 6 महीने से छोड़ दिया उसने लीड कोड, आप 6 महीने लगातार दो. आपसे हार्ड क्या सुपर हार्ड बनेंगे. बट द पर्सन हु हैज लेफ्ट कोडिंग फॉर 6 मंथ्स, उससे अब इजी नहीं बन रहा है. सो इट्स अ, you have to put a reference point कि okay, we both started studying in November, and feedback is necessary. So if a person is doing good, better than you, take constructive feedback. Okay, I'm doing something wrong. We don't be like rigid कि whatever I'm doing is right. Take positive feedback, verify that positive feedback and implement it. If it's bad, you
Got
think
it.
it's bad, discard it. But if it's
Got
good,
it.
we have the have the heart to implement it also, have that humility to implement a suggestion.
So another question that we have over here is, there's two part to it, right? A lot of time, this is a very common problem and the concerns that students have back in college time. One is, let's say I have already acquired an understanding of fundamentals in data science and problem solving ability. Now, when it comes to the development, the project part, there are so many things available. It's a full stack, data science, machine learning, then game development. So many of the things are available, right? And two, two popular subjects that exist is data science full stack, or let's say AI, ML, and full stack, right? And students are always confused between which one to choose. So the student is asking, one, Sahil is asking, Ki, sir, would you ever consider switching your career in data science if the opportunity arose, right? Where he's trying to understand your mentality on that part.
Yeah.
And fully confused between data science and full stack is how would you, you know,
So I'll give you an
take that
example.
question?
So again, I cannot make very concrete answers to these because there are people who work for a living in data science and there are people who
Yeah,
work
yeah.
for a living in AI. So don't want to disrespect them at all. It's a very tough field to get into. That's my answer also though. It's a very tough field to get into. So you don't need to. I will never switch to data science. Two reasons. Number one, there are if there are 100 jobs, 90 of them are backend engineers. Downside to it also, that if there are 100 applicants, 90 of them are backend applicants. So more jobs, more competition, but I'll take more competition
Got
any day. So
got it.
that's good.
Got it.
Number two, data science is a very niche field. Not a niche field as of now, but data science is, if you open jobs in data science, you won't find many jobs in data science. That's my experience. So the market is very saturated. AI, for example, uh, AI, if you're a bachelor student studying AI, nobody is going to give you a call for a job. I don't think so. Masters, no, I don't think so. PhD, yes. And only 10,000, 5,000 jobs in the whole world right now. Google Labs, Walmart Labs, Tesla. uh, these company hire for AI engineers, but they hire the best AI engineers because they want to. It's a research topic. It's not an implemented engineering topic. Implementation engineers are us, back-end engineers, front-end engineers working on payment systems, working on making UI for Amazon, or working on routing traffic, handling traffic through Kubernetes, Docker on AWS, for example. Very hard things to do also. But researching on AI is open-ended. You can do it 2 years, you can do it 10 years and not come up with anything, improving on the current models. So my advice, there's no advice from me. Do whatever you want, but the question you asked is, will I ever change to uh, data science, AI, ML? I would learn about data science, AI, ML. I'm learning about them right now. Like every day I read about 20, 25 minutes of AI, ML every day. Because somewhere somebody told me it's gonna be the future. I don't think so. Eventually, yes, but not in the not in the next 15, 20 years, maybe. It's not gonna take over.
Got
There needs to be much, 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 much work done for it to take over the engineering environment. But always look, because you are investing your precious money into your college degree. So that's the advice, a brotherly advice I can give you is, if you're investing money in your college degree, if you're investing resources, you would want to receive back those resources. And the best probability of getting back those resources is applying for a job which has more number of openings. And the more number of openings are in full stack or backend or front end for that matter, but depends on 70 backend, 20, 25 front end, and 5 full stack. But this is the field where you will get a higher success rate. And that's why I will never move to data science, because then I know that this field will always have jobs.
got it. Got it. I think one of the question, which is, I think we've already answered this, but I'll summarize it. Someone is saying, can you suggest a roadmap for second year students who wants to get into good product based company as an SDE? What mistakes and stuff? I think, as clearly mentioned by Rishabh previously, 6 month, one subject, invest good amount of time, right? Where you are polishing your fundamental skills of problem solving, right? Another 6 month you can spend in working towards any project-based technology, be it full stack or back end or front end on that matter. Yeah, yeah. So a student says, out of curiosity, sir, which tech stack is highly used at Tesla? Although Tesla is a very big system, but if possible, can you share something?
So it's a let's start from the top. So it's a hardware company with a lot of software components in the car. So it's a software running the hardware type of a car. You literally can sit in the car, not touch the wheel, and it will drive itself uh, to wherever in Earth you would want it to. Like you literally don't have to hold it; it will drive you there. You can sit and chill, watch movies on the TV, and that's the main attraction of Tesla. Um, Another thing is our which I am very proud of, is the sustainable energy thing, wherein we are saving. And there is a debate about coal energy because electricity is also coming through coal in India, for example, or in the US also. But again, it's said that electricity is again much more uh, less polluting than gas emissions. So that's another story. But then, so that's the hardware level of stuff. But then the software level of stuff, we have a lot of technologies. You name it, we have it. So there are teams that do C Sharp, Azure, and Microsoft technologies. There are teams which teams like I work in the payment, so we design payment gateways and payment systems. And anything, any money which comes into Tesla comes through our system. We are responsible for securing the networks for the payments, keeping the identities hidden of the payers, thwart any attacks of hackers trying to get money out of our system, posting it to banks, reconciling money, pushing it back, making sure that the books are okay. So that's our team. That is one small team in Tesla. Then there's an autopilot team which works on making the car. That's an AI team, basically, which uses AI to help cars navigate roads and so on. Then there are teams which work on data science, so that there are superchargers. Superchargers, for people who do not know, are chargers which charge the car in 30 minutes so that they can run 400 miles, which is around 600 kilometers on a single charge. So $10. So okay, different context, but in rupees and dollars, but it's cheap. 30 minutes, $10, and you can drive for 400, 300 miles. So there are data science teams which work on supercharger availability, so that people know that when people are charging their cars, if I go to, let's say, let's take India, example of India, if people are going to Himachal Pradesh a lot, for some reason, or Rajasthan a lot, or for example, Uttar Pradesh a lot. So if they see a lot of Teslas at a particular spot in the country, they know that at that place we need a supercharger available so that people can charge. So it's a data-driven decision. So we have data science, we have AI/ML, we have backend, we have front end. Uh, we have SRE stuff because we need to maintain our own networks. Tesla does not believe in buying stuff from Microsoft or Amazon for their cloud resources, so we build our own everything on our own. Um, so we have people, SRE engineers is a very good field if anybody is interested. People do not know about this until they graduate or start working. So very good field to get into. Has a very bright future. Tough, but is a very good field. I wish I knew about it before. Software reliability engineers. They work on networks and they keep the pipelines up and ready, and then they work on Kubernetes, Docker infrastructure of keeping the applications up and running. So we have a lot of technologies. Depends on what part of Tesla do you guys want to come and work for. So
Got it. Got it. Cool. Awesome. And your recommendation on choosing what backend technology. So let's say if I'm about to start my journey with backend, would you recommend any tech stack or any language that I should choose as a preferred language while starting off with my backend learning journey?
no, choose as you will. I again said,
Got it.
depending on basics, fundamentals, choose a language. I cannot give you an answer. to this, because there
Got
are
it.
people who are using Python and Flask for backend
Mm,
development. They are using C Sharp. It'll be unfair on them because I have my own personal preference of Java and Spring Boot. Here you go. But that's, you go with data. You understand. Normally, my decisions are based on data. So when I took Java and
mhm.
Spring Boot, I knew that there are many jobs with Java and Spring Boot versus Python and Flask. So Python and Flask,
Got
you'll
it.
have one job out of 100 versus 99 in Spring Boot and Java. If you want to work for Microsoft, it would be beneficial to learn C Sharp, Goldman
Mhm.
also, for example, or KPMG, or other many companies use C Sharp and
Got it.
technologies. So depends on what you want to do. Do your research. Uh, there's no right answer to this. I
Got it.
cannot recommend anything on this,
Got it.
unfortunately.
A
But
very uh-huh.
but make decisions based on data. Think about the companies you are targeting, and think about the companies. Go to the career space, see what technologies they want to hire for, and then maybe choose it.
Got it. A very commonly requested question, Rishabh, is does Tesla hire people from India, as in people who are here in India? And no, they considered you to be since you completed your masters from US, right? So
Okay.
they
Okay.
assume that you migrated to US, and that's a very different hiring process, right? But let's say a graduate from India, if Tesla hires, and the second part of the question is, what does the this hiring process at Tesla look like? If they're hiring for a software developer, in general.
Mhm. So I may have to check on the first part of the question whether we hire from Indian colleges or not as of now, but
Mhm.
definitely in the near next one or two, if things go well. I am not the right person to comment on this, unfortunately, just a software developer for the company.
Yeah,
But if things go, I think we have taken an office in Pune, and we are in works with the Modi government to open a factory in India. If things go, we might have people roaming around the country for scouting talent. So
awesome.
fingers crossed to that. But I have, I do not know if we hire from, but always go to our website and find the HR contact, and you can shoot a mail to them that I am a student in India. I want to work for Tesla. I like the company for these many reasons. Can I apply for it? Will you be able to sponsor me? And I think we should. Why not? Um,
Got it.
uh, but I do not know for sure. But if they hire me, I'm an Indian citizen right now. I am no different from any other student who is out there. I just did my
Correct.
master's, so I have a visa here. That's the
Hmm.
only difference between me and the students in India. So since I have a visa here, they have taken me, and then they're applying for my H-1B, which they do
Got
for
it.
every employee. So your case will also be no different. If you are selected in there, they'll apply for your H-1B. I am hoping.
Got it. Got it.
So this should be that. And then the what was the second part of your question? Sorry.
The hiring process. How does the hiring process look like?
So hiring process in full time is a um, 5 round interview, which first round is a screening round where when we see the resumes, we know which is fake, which is right. We get on a call, like a phone call, quickly
Hmm.
with the candidate. Okay, are you lying about this? Did you really do this? Get into deep. If we really think that somebody has done good work, we get on a call. We uh, give him a schedule an offer right away for an interview. Otherwise, it's we have thousands of resumes. We go through it. Not us, like the HR go through it. HR goes through it. We have a good HR team. They normally give us good candidates after sifting through it. Then we have so first round is the phone call that we do just to check whether the person is lying or are they really good. And you can tell. Um, the second round is mostly uh, a take home assessment test. Uh, that is also not the second round, but let's consider it a second round. A take home assessment is wherein you are able to do 3 questions, and we have a plagiarism checker, so that anybody copies and pastes from somewhere, we know that you have cheated. So don't do that. We know. And then the third round is with the team. The team, any one member of the team asks you questions. You do a live coding round So again, just diverting from the topic, but I think it's very important to call out because students, and it's a very important knowledge because I'm an interviewer. Uh, Never think of an interview as a person asking you a question. Always think of an interview as a person trying, because they've already selected you, gotten you to this stage. So every interview opportunity that you have and you are in front, people get cold feet like, oh, I will not be able to solve this. So think of the interviewer as a friend, because they want you into the team. They like your resume, they like you, they've given that opportunity to you. Okay, please finish this ordeal for us, select, and we finish the interview. We don't want to take any interviews. See, we want to do this as quickly as possible. We want to seal a good candidate, right? And things somehow become like a good candidate will have cold feet. I'm not able to do a question which he or she might be able to do it in their normal days. So always think of an interviewer as a person who you are collaborating with. We do not want you to solve the question. We want you to collaborate while solving the question. That is what we are judging on. We are not, even if you solve the question and don't collaborate, I won't select you. We are checking your team working style when you are solving a question. So when you're solving a question, you need to ask questions. Okay, are we assuming this? Okay, can we do this, or do you want me to do this? I think this is better because this is this approach, but in this approach this is better. What do you think we should do? Okay, then I respond, okay, but are you sure though? Because, and you second guess the interviewer, and the interviewer is like, makes sense. So it's a conversation that goes on, and the interview wants you to finish it. He'll give you hints, he'll give you whatever you ask for. So you're a team working on a project. It's not only you solving that problem, it's the interviewer also solving that problem. So as long as you ask good questions to the interviewer and you're able to solve it, why not? So that's the second round. Third round, that's the third round. And then the fourth round is basically a group interview with the team. So five engineers bombarding you with questions on previous questions or new questions. And then there's a managerial round, fifth round, and then the sixth round is with Elon, as to why you want to join the company. Earlier he used to take every candidate's interview on his own. Now you just send a letter out to him as to why you are a
Got
fit for the company. So six
it. Got
rounds.
it. Awesome. Awesome. One of the very common question, Rishabh, which people are always struggling of is how much of the data structure algorithm is enough, right? So this is the question that someone is asking: is doing competitive programming required nowadays to get an edge over the other competitors? I've almost completed my DSA, so now I'm doubtful if I should start competitive programming or I should switch to web development and full stack and stuff.
Never, if you want to just work, competitive programming is a sport.
Yeah.
It's never meant to, you cannot, I cannot, or any of my teammates, even friends in Google, Microsoft, Amazon, any companies do not do the freak level of coding these people do in
Hmm.
because it's a sport. You you
Correct.
won't, they won't write readable code. We want readable code. So they would use bit shiftings and bit shifts and, for better choice of word, stupid. I told you about recursion, right?
Yeah, yeah,
People
yeah, yeah, yeah.
use recursion for no, just to show it off that I know it, so I'll do it, with for no apparent reason. So competitive programming is very different. If you want to do it for fun, go ahead. But as long as you're able to finish your DSA and you're able to, do mediums, you are able to solve string problems, array problems, list problems, priority queue problems, graphs, the basics. If you're able to do all of these data structures, you manipulate these data structures, you should be golden. So 400 question rule, 200 mediums, not even 400, 350. So do 200 mediums, 100 easy, and the rest hard. Not hard, you can skip also. No need to do hard.
Got it.
There are very, for all the interviews I've given and I've taken, and I got selected in Amazon as well and NetApp as well during my internship. Uh, chose Tesla because of the mission. But in all of these companies, except some companies which I'll not name, they have an ego problem. They'll bombard the kid with dynamic programming and stuff like that. Except one or two companies like that, there are no companies that will ask you recursion or dynamic programming because nobody uses that in real life. Everybody uses hash map, hash sets, lists, stacks, queues, the normal programming. So everybody will, any company worth their salt will never ask a candidate anything which is hard. They will want to test your knowledge level, not your ability to solve hard problems, because most of the problems in real life are not hard. They are based out of logic. So that's what also is told to us. Do not ask. Imagine us being in that interview. We
Yeah,
wouldn't want
100%.
to be bombarded with a tough question. We would want to be bombarded with a challenging question. Sure, a question which would require multiple levels of thinking, but not a hard question. So, so if
Got
you've done your data structures, so that's good. But data structures खत्म कर लेना and logic दिमाग में बना लेना और problem solving आ जाना is very different. So
it.
problem solving is a constant process. So keep practicing problem solving. Data structures are
Got
just
it.
tools. तो tools तुमको मिल गए,
Some,
लेकिन now you have to also worry about using those tools at the right time. So make your brain more proficient in using those tools. So you see a question, you'll be like, okay, do this, take this tool, take this tool.
got it. Got it. So someone is feeling happy that tail recursive codes, the problem of extra space is all gone,
Don't quote me on
right?
it, but
Awesome. एक interesting question ये है कि ऋषभ की college time पे there's always an issue with time management,
yeah,
right?
is it
The
though?
hectic schedule. Yeah, I mean, the students are saying, right? So how do you like if in case you had that issues or maybe I'm not sure what was your I mean I'm expecting KIIT would have had a very hectic schedule 9 to 5 and stuff like that.
But is
If you
it
can
though?
like
Like, if we are doing a candid conversation, and
uh-huh.
I've been trying to be candid because I don't want to give any superficial knowledge out.
Mhm.
Uh, are you guys really busy in your undergrad colleges? Are you? I don't know. I've been through that. So even if you are, you need to chill a little bit with your college work and do a little more focus. So uh, take your laptops with you in classes. Do one lead code. Don't quote me on it again. Very sorry. But there needs to be a drive. So I don't think people have a time problem. I may be wrong. I'm assuming stuff. But I did not have a time problem. It was just that I was also involved in a lot of things. So the day went on like anything. But I was also roaming around. I was wasting time. So you need to cut time somewhere. If you're going to classes, you are not interested in any class. There are classes which you are not interested in, but you have to go because of attendance. Take your laptop with you. Do your lead code in class. Who's stopping you? And
Got it.
and you don't need to work on your lead code for 4 hours. Do 1 hour a day. You have 365 days. 1 year, you're golden.
Got it. These days, Rishabh, on the internet, there's a lot of buzz about having a strong online presence, right? So students are always confused, like how much of that matters, like having a strong LinkedIn profile, having a strong lead code, 5 star, 6 star, and then there's also a comparison happening with CGPAs parallelly, right? And then people are trying to sometimes ending up trying to become a lot of influencer and all of these things. Oh, I have a lot strong LinkedIn, I have a higher chance of getting selected because I come from so how much of those having a strong online presence when you are going into a career or applying for a job, I mean,
I think
matters considering.
I think it's very different for US and India. In India,
Mhm,
I've worked both places. So in India,
mhm.
it's USA. Nobody gives a
I got it. I got it. Yeah,
nobody. But in India, I think some people might be influenced by a very shiny profile. Even if you have a very shiny profile in the US, it's frowned upon as to we are your co-workers, as to why are
mhm,
you putting us in a limelight? Because if a Tesla employee is like going out of their way and like making a very shiny profile on the company's expense, for example, people will feel uncomfortable because we are your co-workers. Your actions bring attention to our profiles sometimes. So privacy is a big concern here. India, it's more like shiny profile influencer. Wow, Like, why not? If you're an influencer, you might be a good programmer. Take that interview,
Yeah,
might be a good programmer, might not be a good programmer, right? So again, there is no right, people are doing this, so I again don't want to be disrespectful for my own personal views, but then again, you need to see the success rate of influencers. Were they influencers first and then they got into good companies, or did they get into good companies and become influencers later? And that there's the answer
great
that you're
point.
looking for.
Great point. I think very well put. I mean, you already have answer if you look at those things in that way.
Yeah.
Cool. I think Rishabh, that was probably it about. I think we've covered almost all the aspects of not just your college life, but also the corporate. Plus, I think all of the questions that I have on my form and plus floating here in the Q&A section, I think we've almost covered. And I think people should have a clear idea because kahin na kahin, while you are in a college, you have a very, this mentality of maybe, oh, US hai, maybe, Tesla hai. So they would have much harder way to interview people versus hiring here in India, right? And and having that mindset eventually pushes us towards increasing our memorizing capacity versus eventually solving the problem. So we more get into कि यार कितना ज्यादा memorize कर लें, ये भी problem वो भी problem, eventually
Memorize तो
not
नहीं
trying to
करना है.
understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
memorize,
So
never memorize, because even if you memorize what's good, it's just satisfying your ego, right? Nobody is asking you the same exact question. Very less
yeah,
chances,
yeah,
of thousands of questions you'll get that exact question that you memorized. So it's just feeding your ego. Instead of feeding your ego, give 6 months of solid,
yeah,
hard, tough, tough, like crying level dedication. Even if you don't under, and people will agree with me who are doing it right now. Sometimes you look at a problem, even after reading this, how are you thinking of this, or how, why cannot I think of this, or what is going on in these tips, I'm not able to understand. So there might be people who will cry looking at a solution, like, because they're really trying. People will cry
yeah.
only because if they're trying. So be honest to your life. um, have fun, which is very important, because if you won't have fun and you are always like taking a lot of load in stuff, you won't, it's not sustainable.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
have fun in what you are doing. How? Have competitions with your friends. Okay, चल देखते हैं 10 मिनट में कौन करता है. अलग अलग तरीके, थोड़ा अजीब तरीका था, बट have
Got it.
fun with your friends, have discussions with your friends कि do you know why arrays are faster, have a
Mhm.
faster lookup
Right.
than a list. um, I did not know. Okay, tell me. You're walking back home, you're talking about this, knowledge gained for both of you. Tomorrow, okay,
Got
how
it.
does a hash map work? Oh, I read about this article. How does a hash map work? So make it fun. Don't be like, I alone am in this. Take 10 people around you. Okay, 10 people are with me in this. And in these 10
खुद भी
people,
सीखो, सबको सिखाओ.
सबको सिखाओ. फिर वो 10 लोग तुमको सिखाएंगे, तो 10 concepts और आएंगे. And make sure कि
Hmm.
you have helpful people, not selfish people in that group.
Hmm.
And out of those 10 people, some will go to Google, some will come to Tesla, some will go to Amazon, some will go to LinkedIn. And then that's how your group expands. And then you will ask for referrals. So make those connections early, and think you're not alone in this. There are 15 people, 20 people, million people with you, ready to help you. So make that group. Very important.
Got it. Awesome. Like one very interesting question, and it's on the funnier side of thing. I will just conclude with that question.
Mhm,
I'll combine two questions together. One is out student says out of curiosity, sir, how does your day look like as an engineer?
mhm,
How was your experience driving Tesla? And
mhm.
did you ever get a chance to meet Elon? Is what the students are trying to ask you.
So day looks very. So we as a company believe in going to office.
Mhm.
I know, and I am 100% in support of that. Because we are a hardware company as well. So we cannot expect factory workers to go to office and
Yeah,
software engineers to chill at home. So it does not work like that. In our company, our expectations are set that if anybody is going, even our CEO, Elon, he
yeah,
sleeps in office many a times in his factory, so that he can support people who are working in that. So he leads from the front. But On the second part, driving a Tesla is fun. Planning to buy a new one soon. Uh, no money, but whenever I'll have money, I'll buy. Uh, and what was the third part of your question?
Oh, he's saying, did you ever get a chance to meet Elon?
Yeah, never met Elon because Elon
Yeah,
is a
makes
busy
sense.
man. But I've
Yeah.
I've been in a meeting where he was a part of it. So thought of asking a question to him. Didn't have the courage, but someday.
So I think one of the session we were having an interaction with someone from Amazon, and the students are asking ki, sale ka day aa raha hai, can I can we get some discounts from you? So I remember once you mentioned about this part of about your Tesla, मुझे लग रहा था कहीं कोई ये ना पूछ ले कि can we get some discounts,
वो तो
an
इंडिया में
employee discount.
इंडिया में आके तो डबल प्राइस पे आ जाएगा तो फिर कोई फायदा ही नहीं है।
Got it.
1.5 करोड़ की
Awesome.
गाड़ी 3 करोड़ की पड़ेगी तो इट्स नो यूज इन इंडिया अभी तो फिलहाल व्हेन इट मैन्युफैक्चर्स इन इंडिया इट मैन्युफैक्चर्स हियर।
But I think it was fun overall knowing about you, Rishabh, plus all the feedbacks and all the suggestions and the recommendations and your own life story that you've shared was all super amazing, very relatable. And I think, uh, every person you interact, I mean, every person the students have been interacting to, some way or the other, the lessons and the recommendations have been same, right? Towards the end, it's up to you how you take those feedbacks and recommendation, right? Because we always have that curiosity of asking, but very less responsibility of trying to implement that.
Yes.
And someone who's implementing is what is making the difference, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So for whatever questions and answers that you asked and you understood, please try to work upon that. And again, towards the end, I would like to thank you so much, Rishabh, taking out your time. I know it's weekend, Saturday, and you're about to go to bed, and pulling it off to whatever time you were here. It really means a lot to all of us, actually, right?
Yeah.
So
Likewise,
yeah,
paying it forward. So these guys 2 3 years of time, 4 years of time, pay it forward.
awesome. Yeah, I think that's the most important part, right? The one that you said mentioned right now. Keep helping and keep sharing it with whatever experience you gain over a period of time. I think that sharing and stuff will help you become better towards the end of the day. Right. Cool. Once again, thank you so much, and have a great night. And upcoming days and all stuff, all of those things. Have a great day ahead as well. And
You
yeah,
guys as well.
with
Yeah.
that, thank you so much.